Shaped up, all of it bad, completed less than half of his passes, lost a fumble that went for a Bills touchdown. But Rodgers was not letting his receivers off the hook post-game. Here's Rodgers.
When there's film sessions, everybody shows up. And when I check to a route, you do the right route, you know? Like, John and I just weren't on the same page. I checked to his in breaker and he ran out breaker. You know, John is a true professional, so I'm sure he's sick about that. But you know, I threw a ball I thought was going to get hit by the wind, and it was 4 yards over Roman. So that's a throw. I got to make that throw. But you know, we have our meetings every week. We have other opportunities outside of the facility, and look forward to seeing all the boys there.
Not all is lost. Steelers are still tied atop that division, but since week 8, 22 quarterbacks have made at least 5 starts. Rodgers ranks last among those 22 quarterbacks in total QBR and passing yards. Rodgers also thrown for fewer than 200 yards in each of his last 3 starts. Also today is his 42nd birthday. So I'm sorry to do this to you, Aaron Rodgers, but has the signing by Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh been a little bit of a failure?
When you said little bit of a failure.
Well, I made it nicer.
Yeah, because it's a birthday. Well, happy birthday. But
yeah.
I will say this. I'm not going to say it's a failure I would say the expectations for this team have not been met. But I would say if I was going to assign any portion of a failure to the Pittsburgh Steelers, it would be to their defense. I mean, if this has been the most disappointing group in the NFL probably for the entire season. When you think about, listen, y'all, they gave up 250 yards rushing against the Bills. 51 rushing attempts. 51. Like most teams get about 56 plays a game. They got 70 plays. Like, you're going out there knowing it's going to be an onslaught. This has not been a team where any expectations have been met on the other side. Aaron Rodgers was supposed to be brought in as a basic placeholder. Like, just don't lose us games, and we will take this thing. We'll win the division. We'll do it. And they started out fast. And what you have seen is the fatigue of the defense, lack of a run game, lack of explosive plays, and you know, to blame it all on one player. Again, there's enough blame to go around, in my opinion.
Jeff, you can speak to this a little better than I can, but Bill Parcells, Tom Coughlin, their offensive philosophy was to go into a game and try to get 50 runs plus completions.
Yes.
The Buffalo Bills got 51 runs.
Runs.
That is insane. And if they had 51 runs, 50 of them were belly, inside zone.
Oh.
That's all they were doing.
Oh.
They were making them love it.
Same
it was
play.
the same play over and over and over again. Just put it on a loop.
Yeah.
It was an absolute embarrassment. It's the most rushing yards that a Steelers team has given up in Pittsburgh in the last 50 years.
Yeah.
They got embarrassed.
Yes.
They got out physical. They got manhandled.
Yep.
All of the adjectives you want to use. And Aaron Rodgers, when he got up from that Joey Bosa hit at the beginning of the third quarter, was the personification of the state of affairs for the Pittsburgh Steelers program.
Yeah.
So it is an absolute embarrassment. It's a failure of a season. They were 4-1 through the first 5 games of the year and 3 games up in the win column against the Baltimore Ravens.
Yep.
And since that point, you've gone 2-5.
Yep.
It is an absolute embarrassment. It's a failure of a season. Mike Tomlin, Aaron Rodgers, all involved have to wear it in Pittsburgh.
Happy birthday, Aaron. By the way, total QBR of 13 when Rodgers is pressured. It's not great.
Yeah.
What do you think, Stephen A? Has it been a bit of a failure signing Rodgers?
Of course it has, because it's mirroring what we've seen in the past. They lost their last 5 games last year, including the playoff, after starting out 10-3. They haven't won a playoff game since 2016. They've been to the playoffs 6 times over that span, and they've trailed by at least 21 points in every single game. By the way, Jeff and CC, do you know in those 6 playoff games that the Steelers have been outscored in the first quarter 73-0? 73-0 in those 6 playoff games.
Dang.
I mean, we're talking, having trailed by 21 points at least in each of those games. And never, ever once having a lead. You know what that says? That says you didn't belong in the playoffs.
That's right.
That's what that says. Okay? And so when you look at it from that standpoint, and to come here as a 4-time league MVP and to remotely in any way mirror the tragedy that we've been seeing, I'm talking about in football parlance, of course, that we've been seeing from the Steelers in the past, and to do virtually nothing to alleviate that is of incredible concern. Over the last 3 games, Aaron Rodgers has completed 52% of his passes and has thrown for a total of 394 yards in the last 3 games. 394 yards in the last 3 games with completing 52% of his passes. That's what we're talking about here. And so, listen, when you talk about it, of course it's a failure, all right? Because we don't expect much from them. It's not just about getting to the playoffs. It's about winning once you get there, at least a game. Nobody sees that from these Pittsburgh Steelers right now. Who you going to beat? You gonna beat New England? You think you're going to beat them again if you face them again in Foxborough? Nope. That ain't going to happen. You think you're going to beat the Texans? You think you're going to beat Jacksonville? You think you're going to beat Indianapolis? Maybe Indianapolis. I don't see that happening again. Not a second go round. You're going to beat Denver with that defense? You're going to beat Kansas City if they creep in there? You better hope that Justin Herbert stays out if you're going to beat the Chargers. So you just look at some of the dilemmas that the Pittsburgh Steelers are facing, and then you hear questions being asked to Aaron Rodgers and how he hasn't ruled out coming back for 2026. Well, let's ignore, if we can, because it is his birthday, how subpar he has looked. Why come back to the Steelers? Why? They had an opportunity. They had George Pickens. They gave him away. They weren't able to find a replacement. DK Metcalf is getting double and triple team on every single play because they know you don't really have a number 2 receiver. Yep. You just look at it right now. You're all of a sudden some star tight end that's walking around looking like Chris Canty, about 6'7", 6'8", about 300 pounds. Okay, that's who you're talking about in Washington. You're just looking at them right now. It's like, what are we talking about here? It's not a good situation. So it's not just about Aaron Rodgers. It's about the collective whole and how bad it looks from the GM, Omar Khan, on down to Tomlin and the players. But in the end, at the age of 41, 42 years of age, having, slipped since your last MVP, what was it, in 2021? Why come back to this? Yeah. Man, go back, go home, collect your pension. Because y'all ain't going to win nothing. Why bother?
It's getting hard to watch. Their next game is against the Ravens, rather.
It is hard to watch. They ain't getting there. It is hard to watch.
Yeah, it's hard to watch. You feel bad. I feel like, I don't know. I'm obviously a Bears fan. I watched him so long, be so great. I'm like waiting for the game for him to come back to old Aaron Rodgers, and unfortunately, it's just not happening. I'm sure broken wrist and a banged up nose doesn't help either.
For real.
All right, time for King of the Court here, the weekly NBA contest on DraftKings Sportsbook. Here is how it's going to work. Head on over to DraftKings Sportsbook.